Thank you for having us here today. I'd like to thank Zinnov for inviting us to speak on the topic of an automation-first mindset. Having been through blitzscaling ourselves, I can tell you that the mindset is one of the most important components to how your organization is going to adapt to the fast growth that you may be experiencing. UiPath is the poster child. Many of you know our story. If you don't, I'll give you a quick synopsis. UiPath is the poster child for blitzscaling. We've gone from 1 million to 100 million in annual recurring revenue in 18 months. We reached 200 million in half of that time, and we're doubling at a pace that's exponential. And the reason I mention that is because we've learned some things ourselves. Our customers have taught us some things about how to grow that fast that I'd like to share with you. The topic of the talk is how to adopt the automation-first mindset. But before we get into that, I want to share a little bit about UiPath's story in India, because India is an absolutely crucial part of the UiPath story, and we have just grown to love the country and all the people here. So, UiPath was started in 2005 by Daniel Dinez and Marius Turca, engineers out of Bucharest. You heard a little bit about that story this morning, and where our engineering had been focused and still is quite prominent. About 8, 9, 10 years, they were plugging away, building a, for lack of a better term, screen scraping technology that was being OEM'd by various software vendors and organizations. And 2015, Daniel gets a call from a BPO in Chennai. Gets on the phone, and the person on the other end says, "We need to talk. I want to tell you what our customer is doing with your technology. We're working with a large multinational computer company, and they're using your product to pull data off the web and plug it into their global supply chain processes and automate tasks." So this was intriguing. This was not a use case that we had fully comprehended before this phone call. So Daniel gets on a plane shortly thereafter, expects to go there, learn a little bit, come back, and move on with the company's goals and ambitions, which were small at the time. He stays here for 3 months. He was blown away by what he saw, and blown away by the ingenuity of the people he met here and the culture of India. And so he stayed here for 3 months. He and Marius learned about the market, learned about the opportunity, went back and took that core technology and created our RPA product out of it. And to this day, the rest, as they say, is history. But it really set the foundation for our relationship and how important India is to us as a company. So now, not only is it one of the fastest growing and most important regions for us as a company, but because of its relationship with the rest of the world as the center of all these global centers of excellence, it is super important for us, as from a strategic perspective, to have a big presence here and a great relationship with India. So that's a little bit about our relationship with India, and it continues to grow, and you'll learn more about that today. Manish will be speaking at 2:30 on one of the panels. We recruited local leadership to grow our India presence, and it remains a very, very strong and strategic component for our business. So now let's get into building an automation-first mindset. So obviously, everyone here is aware of automation, and the impact and the profound impact that automation is having on the world and work. We look at this as another in the chain of disruptions in the information technology era that is going to create a lasting and significantly powerful impact on work and the world. From the mainframe to the PC, GUI, cloud, mobile, internet, when these technologies emerged, companies completely changed the way they operated, or many of them died. And we see automation as the next major disruption of work. And usually don't like to read from the slides, but in this particular case I will, because I think McKinsey captured it best as why automation is happening now. We've been talking about automation for decades. If you look at the Jetsons cartoons in the US from when I was a kid, we had visions of automation. The great sci-fi authors talked about automation and robotics and AI. But why is it happening now? I think McKinsey really encapsulated this perfectly. Coming over the horizon is a new wave of opportunity related to the use of robotics, machine learning, and AI. It's a confluence of trends. Companies that deploy automation technologies realize substantial performance gains and take the lead in their industries, even as their efforts contribute to the economy-level increases in productivity. We firmly believe this, and this vision this ethos drives our company. The impact of automation can't be understated, both at the company level and at the societal level. Our ambition, what drives our company is this tagline that we have is accelerating human achievement. We firmly believe that we are a company and automation technologies will help humans become better and do more and continue to break ground and innovate. And this stat, which is from McKinsey as well, is my favorite stat when we talk about measuring the impact of automation. According to McKinsey, in the study they did, they believe that robots, both hard robots, physical robots, and software robots, will add the equivalent of 2.3 billion workers to the workforce. Stats like that just boggle my mind, and they really give me hope for the future on what we can do as a human race. When you add that much power, manpower, robot power to the workforce, it expands our ability as humans to do more. So we wanted to measure where the market is in automation. How much progress have we made? Who's leading? Where is automation going? So we commissioned The Economist intelligence units to do a study on automation maturity. They called it the Advance of Automation. And what we did was we looked at regions, every region in the world, dozens of countries. We looked at multiple industries, a wide range, and we surveyed hundreds of executives in leading companies on where they are with automation. And so what we found, I'll pull out 3 quick stats to give you some context here. We found three things I found really interesting. First off, automation is a C-level initiative in 83.7% of the companies we surveyed. These companies were all over 250 million in revenue. Half of them were over $1 billion in revenue. So these are global, large companies. And we asked them, who owns automation in your business? Is it a C-level? Is it an IT person? Is it a business person? And 83.7%, it was a C-level executive. 22% said CEO. So this is telling me that automation is maturing, right? And I think I could tell you for sure, spending time here in India, it's certainly maturing here. To the extent that when we asked that question and we filtered it by the respondents by country, 90% in India said it was a C-level ownership and responsibility, their automation strategy, which does not surprise me after meeting and talking to people here. Secondly, we asked them, well, how's it going? How do you feel? Is automation working for you? Are you satisfied with the results? 73% said they were entirely or very satisfied with the results thus far from automation. And if you break that down by country, once again, India is in the lead. India over-indexed on every single question we asked here in a positive way. It proved itself, it showed itself to be the most mature and most advanced country that we surveyed in terms of the maturity and the adoption of automation. And once again, it doesn't surprise me after, I've been here for a week, in leading up to this conference, and I've met with a bunch of customers, I've met with partners, I've met with our own internal folks, and India is ready for what's next, I can tell. You guys really have made a lot of progress in core automation, the easy stuff, and it's no surprise to me that you guys came out on top here because you guys are really driving the most advanced use cases that we're seeing. And then the next question we asked, and sorry for the busy chart here, but I'll just encapsulate it. We asked the CEOs, what technologies are most important for you to reach your strategic objectives this year? And we gave them physical automation, robotic process automation, AI, blockchain, AR, VR, and Internet of Things. And 70% for both AI and RPA said AI and RPA are critical for us to meet our strategic objectives. We need these technologies to accomplish what we want to accomplish this year. And then once again, in India, 86% said AI was critical to meet their objectives this year. 84% said RPA were critical. So I wanted to just give you guys some context of where the market is with automation, and specifically where India is. So now let's talk about automation first and the automation first mindset. So when we talk to our customers that are doing the most advanced work in RPA and automation, we go through their story. We try to understand their processes, how they run their COEs, how they enable the technology, how they roll it out, how they're actually developing and deploying. And we see some similarities there across the leaders. But the element that we see the most in the most successful companies is that they have a mindset around automation that is different from those who are not adopting as fast. They have an automation-first mindset. They go in when they're designing a process, redesigning a process, or transforming or just in trying to improve a process and think, hey, what's automation's role in this process? Can we automate this process? If it can be automated, it should be automated. Now, that doesn't mean that they fully eliminate the person from the process, but they're looking for where can we apply automation in this workflow in conjunction with the person to make this process work better. And the reason why they've told us, and we've seen, it's so important is because in the next era, adoption is going to be crucial. What we saw from previous eras is that the companies that adopt the technology the fastest or embrace it tend to win and ride the wave of disruption, and those who avoid it tend to lose. And so these are some examples. Obviously, we all know what Amazon has done to booksellers, what Uber is doing to the New York City taxi. I'm from New York, so that's my favorite example from the mobile first era, and then what Netflix has done to video stores. Automation is the next wave here, and you need to understand how to adopt it as opposed to avoid it. So then, the question that becomes, well, how do I adopt an automation-first mindset? What do I do? How do I think about this? And so we saw the leading companies took a top-down and bottom-up approach to automation. And this is the big difference between what we're seeing with the most successful and the less successful companies. First thing companies do is they come in from the top down, and after they have a little success, and they try to automate as much as they can from a central perspective. And listen, that's important. The top-down approach is a crucial component of automation. Having a centralized center, our customers are calling it the Robotic Operations Center. You may call it a COE, but the ROC is where you find the most common tasks that can be automated, and from a central perspective, you stack rank them and try to determine where do you want to spend your time and money based on ROI. This is the classic COE model, centralized, right? If one task happens 90,000 times a month inside your company, and by automating it, you can save a minute. Well, we got 90,000 minutes. There's some ROI there. Probably doesn't cost that much to build. Sounds good. But if you have another task that happens 40,000 times, 50,000 times, but it'll save you an hour each time, this is kind of basic, but obviously you're going to automate the second one. But what the centralized component does is it looks for all the big tasks, stack ranks them, and then goes in priority order and starts to automate and try to understand, okay, where does this fit now in context of how people work if we're going to automate this part of it? So you look at that, and you then find, once again, you're not you're not looking to eliminate the people in the process, right? Some processes will eliminate people from the process. There's some, this is a spectrum that we've created with our customers on the varying degrees of which automation can occur in a work process. On one hand, no robots, right? There's a lot of work, creative, managerial, collaborative, tasks that require pulling information and understandings from various domains. Those types of tasks, not great for robots. Maybe one day a robot will be up here doing this presentation, but right now it's still humans doing a presentation like this, right? So you have your tasks which are clearly going to be human-based forever. Then you have your tasks which are really ripe for automation. Invoice processing is the #1 process that we see fully automated in an unattended manner, right? It's routine, it's reading information off the screen, and then processing and working with applications. But in between, there's a whole host of types of work that require both kinds, both people and robots in the mix. A great example is what we're seeing with our customers, that our customers are doing with their contact centers. They're using RPA and automation to assist the agent who is still talking to the person on the other line, but the robot is in the background gathering data about that customer's account. We see this in one of our customers, which is a large bank. What they have a robot do is assist the branch loan officer who, when he or she is about to engage with the customer, in advance, looking at the loan agent's calendar, will go and pull the data about that customer from all of the various systems that bank owns and presents it to the loan officer a half hour before their meeting, right? And then you're working there as a robot, that's an attended robot that's working with the human, and then the human is doing part of the work, right? That's saving the human so much time. It was a previously full end-to-end human piece of work that was done. Now we have humans and robots working together. So these are the models. And I will say, if you're interested in learning more about this, we wrote a white paper on this whole thing. Everything I'm presenting here, it's available from our website. It's our vision for an automation-first mindset. So we go in more detail if you'd like to read more about that. So that's top-down approach. But the bottom-up approach is equally important. And what we mean by the bottom-up approach is, and this is early, right? A lot of just several of our customers are starting to move to this, but it's new. They're giving their employees, and we have one customer who's giving it to hundreds of thousands of employees, they're giving their employees the ability to build their own robot. Of course, The Rock is still involved. The Rock is handling security, governance, compliance. They're giving them the tools. They're giving them the capabilities to build their own robots, but using our software, the people are then building robots to handle the work that they want to automate, which only they can really fully identify. No centralized unit can really understand how I do my work every day and what the most routine stuff is. Now, sure, they can identify some percentage of work that I do that everyone does, that's routine, but I put these slides together. I use a robot to help me pull data, right? And that's something unique to my workflow. So I could use a robot to go do that, and I build that myself. And so the Robotic Operations Center then takes those robots, makes sure that they're compliant, and then will actually even deploy and roll out robots to the rest of the organization if they find one that's usable by the rest. So, and the reason why that's important is because in the future, we know that mundane work is going to be automated. This is a study by Deloitte. They believe 50% of mundane work will be automated in the future. But that doesn't mean that 50% of jobs are going away, because more likely is that tasks are going to be automated. And combining a top-down and a bottom-up approach will help your organization get that 50% of work automated, because according to our estimates and studies we've done with our customers, only about 3 to 7% of the work done in the organization can be automated by a centralized unit. The rest of that work that's going to be automated is unique and specific to people. and people will need to be able to do that, build those automations themselves. So we're almost done. Last concept I want to just cover with you guys and make you aware of is, after we talk a little bit about automation maturity and where you may be, customers then ask, well, how do I know where I am in the journey? How do I compare to others? So we put together this maturity model to give some sort of guidance to those who are curious to compare themselves to the rest. It's the automation first maturity model. So it's starting, scaling, transforming, and extending. A couple of years ago, the majority of organizations were in the starting mode. They were in some department, finance, accounting, HR. Some business leader said, hey, I heard about automation. Go learn RPA. Go to UiPath and go through the academy and learn how to do RPA, and let's automate a couple of tasks. And they bought 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 robots. Now, the vast majority of organizations are in the scaling mode. They're standardizing processes. They're going from 10 robots to 500 robots to 1,000 robots. And this is where it's centralized across the entire organization in a partnership between business and IT. The next phase, where we're starting to see, as I expanded upon some of the early adopters, is we're moving to a robot for every person phase, where our customers are enabling their employees to build their own robots. And then last but not least, no one is here yet, but we're seeing the conversation start. Where this is going to go next, once we've matured or maybe at the same time as we're maturing, and we give a robot to every person, we're starting to see our customers talk about, hey, can my robot talk to your robot? Can we do this across the firm? Can we create a robotic supply chain? We call it the gigabot economy. I was at a customer advisory board meeting 3 weeks ago, and we had an oil company and an oil distributor, both on our customer advisory board. And they realized that a robot is handling the accounts payable and accounts receivable on the same side of an invoice. And they thought, hey, how about we just have the robots do that, connect to each other? So now we're exploring that. Blockchain will come into play. We have to make sure it's secure, et cetera. But that's where this is going. A little aspirational, but we're starting to see those conversations happen. So on that note, that is the mindset you need to become an automation-first company. We are UiPath. Our mission is to deliver the platform for the automation-first era. And I'll just leave you guys with a quote from Daniel Dines, our CEO. What drives us is accelerating human potential. Our vision is a robot for every person. And in the words of Daniel, once you give a person their own robot and let them remove the mundane tasks from their day, this brings them joy. That person becomes more productive and creates more value for your enterprise. That is the automation-first mindset. Thank you very much.